I promised myself this was going to be quite a quick video. This was a video request for a viewer, so I hope this answers any questions they have about how I make my bases. I'm basically just going to go over the very basics. I'm not an anatomy expert or anything. This is just how I personally draw my bases. Keep in mind they're just sketches for creating characters on. That's literally it. So I hope you enjoy the video. I usually sketch in a different colour to help me distinguish my sketch from my line art. I'm starting with the woman's base because I always find women easier for some reason. For the head shape, I always tend to go for something a lot softer with a lot more curves. For my head, I tend to do it quite a bit more shorter and squished than a man's face. I usually place the eyes somewhere along the middle, the very middle from the top of the head to the chin, and the nose goes between that line and the chin, so halfway between that, and then the lips will be just under the nose. I don't really do anything about the eyes to start with, I just give them a basic shape. That's how I start with the head for the females. Like I said, I'm not an anatomy expert, but I did study it on a very basic level, which helped me to draw bodies in a kind of anime style. That's not the style I'm aiming to work for, but that's what I am quite good at the moment, and hopefully my style will change eventually. I start off with the shoulders for the females. They tend to be about half a head width either side, and then you can see here that I'm drawing lines that kind of very curved, that go down and form a kind of hourglass shape. I don't really spend too much time worrying about like head ratios and heights and stuff unless I'm doing like a full proper illustration. This is just a sketch. I tend to erase some of my sketchy lines but not completely. I still like to be able to see them because in case I go back and say actually I liked where that was before, I can retrace it. With the arms, I tend to draw them as curved lines. There's kind of a tip there, it kind of stops the arms from looking like stiff, and I place the elbows basically where the waist are. And a tip that I'm going to say as well is, you are working on a digital program, don't be afraid to use all of the capabilities of your digital program. I've used the liquify tool, the warp tool. You're not going to create a perfect figure the first time. A lot of artists seem to think that even on a digital program you have to get it right the first time, but you are working on a digital program and that does have certain advantages over traditional mediums. And if you are working traditional mediums, you have an eraser, don't be afraid to use it. There's no expectation to create something perfect the first time, especially with sketches. You can probably see here that I also did the legs in a curved line to stop them from becoming static and kind of very stiff as well. This also helps with women especially because you are able to draw the thighs better, because well, it depends on your style, but some women have quite curvy thighs. A lot of women have a lot thicker thighs on the top than they do their calves, which can be, I don't really draw that far down when I'm doing character designs. I usually go down just below the calf. I don't really bother with the feet unless I'm doing, you know, full body illustrations where the shoes do actually matter, especially with clothing and stuff. The next part I'm going to be drawing is the lower part of the arms. These I tend to make so the tip of the fingers finish mid-thigh. They're not completely level at the moment. I do fix that later, and I do use a lot in the end of the liquify tool, and I warp things and I change things about because I'm not perfect. I'm not going to create a perfect figure the first time, and it does need a bit of editing, and I do edit it and I do improve it, which I think is quite a good advantage of using a digital medium. You don't have to erase everything to kind of edit things and make it look good, which, you know, you can draw and sketch traditionally and you can take things into Photoshop or whatever program you're using to kind of adjust things and make sure everything looks right. Another tip is something you've probably heard before, is if you're working traditionally, you can hold your sketch up to a mirror, which does the same thing as kind of flipping your canvas, and it helps you to see where you've made mistakes and what you might need to fix, which is something I use a lot when I'm working for school and college and things, and it's really helpful in getting a new perspective on your work. I always tend to find that I draw my figures on a slant and they always look like they're kind of stood on a ledge or like a slope or something. I think this is because I also write on the side like really slopey, so I always edit that by just using the transform tool and just correct that a bit more. You can see it doing it here, like they are quite wonky, but you know, I'm able to fix that in Photoshop, which is good. Fun fact, I'm not that great at drawing men. It's probably because I just take a liking to female characters and things more. I need to draw males more, but I do follow a few kind of certain rules, and they're not really rules. When I'm drawing males, I tend to make their faces longer and their jaws are a lot sharper than females. Females are a lot more curved in general, and men are a bit more sharp and square. It depends on what body type you're drawing, but in general, men tend to be a lot more square. For the eyes, I put them in the same place, but with male eyes, I tend to do the eyebrows slightly lower down, closer to the actual eye. You'll see that in a minute, and I actually do draw the eyebrows out, unlike the female, I didn't draw any eyebrows on her. And I tend to draw the nose a bit lower down than halfway than with females, and the lips tend to be in the same place, just slightly underneath the nose. But this is just my personal style. Your style might be different, and it depends. Something that I tend to find with most men is that they have a slightly wider neck than most females. This is because they tend to be more muscly than females in general. They have a higher muscle to fat ratio, which is basically just how biology works. They also have wider shoulders than most females. I tend to do almost a whole head width either side before, like, other than females, because they only have usually half a width that I draw. But again, it depends on your style, because different people exaggerate different parts of the body. But this is just how I draw males and their shoulders. You'll see in a minute that rather than drawing two lines that curve down for the torso of the man, I draw just two ever so slightly curved lines that go inwards at the waist. Men do still have waists, not quite as defined as most females, and they do have hips as well. They're not just straight up and down. That's what I used to do. I used to draw them straight up and down, but I have realised now that a lot of men do have waists and they have hips, just not as prominently as women do. One thing I've also noticed about men is, unless they're really muscly, their thighs also don't tend to be as thick as a woman's thighs. So I don't tend to start with curved lines for men's legs. I just tend to draw them more as slightly curved, kind of circular or cylinder structures. They do have slightly wider calves than women because there's more muscle down in that area of their legs. I'm just making his torso a little longer because I realised he did look a little short. I think I personally draw men a little longer in the torso. Again, it depends on style. That's just how I draw them. And I'm now working on the calves, and I am making them slightly thicker. He does kind of look like he's wearing trousers already. I don't really draw men without trousers on, so I'm not really too sure on men's legs without trousers. That is basically how they're drawn, but it still looks like he's drawn with trousers. And again, I'm making his upper thighs longer and his calves longer, because I just still thought his legs looked a little bit short. And in terms of proportions between the woman and the man, I made him a little bit taller, not because all men are taller, but they tend to be a little bit taller. Here I'm using Liquify to edit him again. I thought his shoulders needed a little bit more width to them, and I added a little bit more to his upper thighs and a little bit more to his hips. I was just basically playing around, pushing things around. Some of the things ended up looking a little distorted, but that's what you get with the Liquify tool. I do go ahead and edit them and try and make them look a little bit better before I start going on to the colouring process. I'm not going to talk you through the colouring process because it's a really sketchy colouring process. I just do it really tonal, adding random clothes and random hair, but basically you can just see how character bases can turn into full-fledged characters. So I hope you enjoy that section of it. Thanks for making it all the way through the video. Please subscribe for more videos, and if you haven't seen my Bad OC New Year's resolution video, please go and check that out. The link's in the description. The next video of that series will be coming out soon. I just need to edit it and add a voiceover, and apart from that, I hope to see you in my next video.